Hello, good evening. My name is Araceli. The truth is that I have been following your channel for quite some time and several stories have happened to me, but I never dared to tell them. There was precisely an event that marked me a lot because even to this day, it's something that generates a lot of fear in me and not many people know about it, but I decided to tell it.
Friends, how are you? Welcome to this new episode. Today we are going to have two stories that are worth it from beginning to end, and I ask you to stay until the end because the last one is really impressive. Interestingly, they do not have a relationship with each other, but what they have in common is that both happened at very close points. I would like to know, as always, what do you think about these two stories? And if ever, why didn't something similar happen to you? Remember that you can send me your experience to the WhatsApp number that is currently on screen. The number and duration of the audios don't matter. You can also add photos and videos or anything else you think is appropriate to make your story as complete as possible. Then I review all of this, and any questions that arise, I will be contacting you. Friends, now yes, we don't waste any more time, and we start right now with this new paranormal story. In 2014, after resolving some problems, I finally began the professorship in agronomy, and one of the requirements we had was to do the teaching practices in the Education for All. The schools mentioned are part of the agricultural family. And basically, these are schools in the countryside where we future teachers are going to carry out these very important practices. The reality is that you can hardly choose where you go, so most of the time where you are assigned, that will be your destiny. In our case, and I say this because I went with a colleague, we were assigned to the Avellaneda department in the province of Santiago del Estero. This school is on Route 34 between Colonia Dora and the town of Herrera. It's a fairly isolated place where there is nothing more than countryside, bush, and a lot of tranquility. Of course, in a place like this, one would never expect to experience a paranormal event, and you're going to realize how wrong I was. The time we had to be doing these practices was only 3 weeks, and I could tell you that the first one was quite calm. Perhaps you did hear some noise or you thought you saw something that wasn't there. But as it happens to the vast majority, these are just feelings that remain there, that are forgotten. Until at a certain point, I could no longer pretend to be unaware. That second week, something started happening to me that escalated to a point where it became unbearable. I felt a presence almost constantly near me, and also near my companion. It's challenging to describe, particularly because these experiences are new to me. Perhaps there are people who are familiar with these topics, with these energies, and they know how to realize what is happening. In my case, it was a real surprise, because as the days went by, this presence was like, somehow it was driving me away from the place. I didn't feel welcome at all. But logically, and beyond this horrible feeling, I thought that what was happening to me was due to fatigue or stress from doing something new, so important for my career and in a different place. But the days went by and showed me that there was actually something more. One Friday afternoon, with everything finished, I visited one of the dormitories. Keep in mind that this is a boarding school type, where many of the boys and girls stay during the week. So I went to one of these dormitories, chose one of the many bunk beds that were free, and I lay down. The details to keep in mind to imagine this moment are that I was totally alone in the dormitory. The vast majority of the mattresses had a protective plastic cover, meaning they were unused mattresses. And finally, what happened was, as soon as I lay down, I hadn't even closed my eyes.
So there I was lying down, and in one of the beds next to me, I heard someone getting up from the bed. I heard through the plastic like someone got up from the bed. I looked all around. It still gives me chills to think about it. There was no one, so I, very scared but tried to stay calm, I said, "I'm leaving." So I walked that endless little hallway to the door of the room's exit. And throughout that journey, I felt like someone was next to me, like someone was following my steps, was behind me. My blood had frozen. I practically felt cold all over my body, and I left. I left the room as soon as possible, and I went to the teacher's room. I calmed down, and there I stayed.
That same week, talking with my colleague, I confirmed that those feelings were not just mine. She had also experienced many strange things, and not only that. One weekend night chatting while we were having dinner with the night watchman who stayed to take care of the school. He told us that it was true that paranormal situations happened, but it was not something without explanation. There was something quite curious for some reason, and yes, that no one could solve it. About a year ago, everything had started. These paranormal events had started shortly after the tragic death of a school teacher. This woman didn't die in that place. She died in a regrettable traffic accident on Route 34. And according to this watchman, from those days on and uninterruptedly, strange things began to happen.
To all this, he told us that once he was watering the school's garden, he was watering it, and his wife comes and asks him, "Hey, are you alone? Or are there people here at the school?" And he tells her, "No, I'm completely alone. There's no one, not even the teachers. There was no one, there were no kids, there was nothing." And he says no, because in one of the classrooms I heard a lady laughing. It still gives me chills. So they went to the
classroom. It was
the classroom where this teacher taught. A lady was laughing inside there. And he always used to tell us, didn't he? I mean, he used to tell us that he felt persecuted. He felt persecuted and scared because of all that situation, because strange things were happening there.
The third and last week was the worst, the most intense, and the one I suffered the most precisely because of what happened to me. On Wednesday, we had dinner, and along with my partner and other girls who stayed at the school, we went to sleep. We went to bed, chatted for a while, and finally we all fell asleep in the middle of a very rainy night. It had been like that almost all day. I woke up early in the morning and needed to use the bathroom. But the thing was that thanks to everything that had happened to us the previous days, I didn't know how to get up and go to the bathroom alone. It's worth noting that I was in my bed, looking towards the side that faced one of the bedroom windows. Some light was coming in from outside, so you could see quite well where I was walking. And after a few minutes, knowing that I would definitely have to get up, I gathered courage and turned in bed. But at that precise moment, I encountered one of the most terrifying scenes of my entire life. There was next to my bed a woman standing, looking at me with an expression of anger, or at least that's what I interpreted in that second. But the most terrifying thing was that she had neither hands nor feet, so she was literally floating in front of me. Her appearance was that of a normal person. I'm very clear about this, but maybe in more opaque colors, I don't know how to explain it correctly. I ended up covering myself up to the head and closing my eyes, praying that nothing happens to me. At one point I uncovered myself and it was gone. I never knew if this apparition and everything else had any relation to that deceased teacher or not. It's not in me to assure this. What I can confirm is that this entity, or whatever it was, did not want me. I don't know why, but it was angry with me. At one point I imagined that if it was this teacher, she was angry because she believed from her place that I would steal the site she could no longer occupy. But no, I was simply doing my mandatory practices. Anyway, everything I thought were simple assumptions, since I don't think I will ever find a logical explanation for everything that happened to me during those days in this school. Maybe there's something more, something that has no relation to the teacher and is actually the root of that entity that wanders permanently.
So the truth is that was the worst thing that happened to me in those 3 weeks. And since then, I've been left with that fear and that bad feeling. No, many people know it, but the truth is I had a really bad time those 3 weeks. It was constantly walking through the corridors all over the island, going to the dining room and feeling cold and feeling uncomfortable, and like something was there next to me all the time.
Some time ago, an experience occurred on Route 34 in Santiago del Estero. And curiously, it was very close to the school of the first story. I repeat again that these two experiences have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But, taking advantage of the occasion, let's listen to it and learn about one more mysterious point on the roots of our country. I'm from Rafael, the province of Santa Fe, and thanks to my job, I visited many places in our country. Basically, since I joined this company, I've been in a van, carrying out different tasks, and I can be fortunate to say that my job is something I enjoy very much. I don't work alone. Usually there are two of us in the vehicle. And this is really important because it gave me the assurance that what happened to us, that time was something real and totally impossible at the same time. Before I begin, I want to make it clear that I am not a person who believes in paranormal matters. Until that day, I believed in nothing at all. Because if you haven't experienced something firsthand, it's very hard to know that such a strange moment can happen to you. We had left Rafaela, as always, very early. Our first stop would be San Cristobal, also in Santa Fe, and from there drive straight to La Banda, a town next to the city and capital of Santiago del Estero. This trip was quite common. We had done it several times, perhaps with some changes in the intermediate stops, but in general it was the same. And never had anything happen to us. In fact, in so many years on the road, personally, nothing out of the ordinary ever happened to me. Never. Until that time, we were doing pretty well. It was around 2 in the afternoon and we stopped to eat something at the YPF on 34th and 92nd. This is already Santiago del Estero, of course. We finished eating, filled up the truck's tank, and continued our journey. We had about 2 hours left ahead of us. As I told you, the trip was going normally. The route was very quiet. We were drinking mate and chatting. When it happened. Something that really doesn't make any sense and also doesn't have a coherent explanation for me. We had driven for about half an hour, so I imagine we were getting to the town of Lugones on Route 34. And I say it this way because we directly lost total orientation of where we were. Let's see, how to explain this part. In practically seconds in front of us it began to rain. First gently, and then in a way we have never seen in our entire life. The curious thing about this was that at no time seconds before, we saw the sky cloudy. Everything started from one moment to another, as if we had entered another place. It was truly incredible. I immediately slowed down, turned on the hazard lights, and started to pull over to the right to try to stop. You couldn't see beyond the hood of the truck and it was dangerous. Driving like this, not only because of crossing paths with another vehicle, but also because of running over some loose and lost animal on the road, something quite common. Finally, and before being able to stop, absolutely everything dissipated. The rain went away, that fog that covered everything also disappeared, and the two of us didn't understand what was happening. Do you know why? Because immediately the weather was completely clear, and one detail I don't want to overlook is that behind us there wasn't a single cloud. But there's something even stranger. We didn't recognize where we were until we saw, or rather, after a few minutes, we came across the welcome sign to the town of Chola. We had to look it up on the global positioning system to know where it was, because we had no idea and we were more than surprised. Now, do you understand why? The town of Chola is in Santiago del Estero, but on Route 6 and separated from our last point, about 190 kilometers away. And here I want to take a moment to review some very important issues. On one hand, we were on Route 34, more or less near Lugones. I don't know the exact point, but it's totally irrelevant knowing that we appeared so far away later. The duration of this rain was only a few minutes, no more than 2, that's what we believe. The fuel tank was still full, just as we had filled it up at the YPF a little while before, and the time was still correct. We had left the service station after 2 in the afternoon, and when we realized we were in Chola, it was 3, quarter to, so there was no chance of covering that distance in such a short time, approximately 15 minutes, let alone without using fuel. How is all this possible? The few who know about the story, they asked us if we felt anything strange before or after, if we were unconscious for even a moment, or if we suffered any discomfort. And the answer is no, we didn't feel anything strange. At no time did we see anything out of the ordinary either, except for that curtain of water that practically closed our route suddenly. We both remember second by second everything that happened to us. We were, in fact, talking at all times because we had never seen anything like it. And I repeat, I've traveled this route many times. To be honest, we're unsure of what occurred. My daughter persuaded me to share this on the channel, and to find out if something similar happened to someone else, as it's not something I've shared much since it happened just a few months ago.